I was going through a very painful period of getting no response from the recruiters for the job applications. It was like sending an application like to a black hole. Like I never got a response, not even a reject from them. And another pain point that I was facing was that if you are someone who wanted to target companies that are not in the mainstream, so these hot startups and all that, uh, it was very difficult to target the recruiters or people who works in the company, and sometimes it's even difficult to even know what companies exist. So I was having trouble going through Crunchbase and LinkedIn, and then going through the news about acquisitions, fundings, and everything. And sometimes I used to even go through the homepage of VCs, and then go through their companies that they have funded. And all this was taking a lot of time, and definitely this time was eating into the time that I would otherwise be using for preparing for the interviews. It was a very painful period of like a month and a half, wherein I mean, so that's when I decided that I should actually try for help, and that's where HiCounselor came in. Well, HiCounselor has this one-on-one sessions that they do weekly, um, and so they are mostly in two categories. Like one is uh, behavioral, and the other is the tech. In my case, I was reasonably comfortable with tech, but the behavioral part was something that I had really no idea about how to answer. I was the most of the things that I thought right was actually not really what the recruiters were really looking for. And I will also learn that there is a subtle difference between what a recruiter might be looking for, um, whether they are from a established company like Google, or whether they are from a budding startup that recently got uh, like X amount of like funding. And there are these nuances that I had no idea about, and did a pretty good job about like summarizing and coaching me how to do that. They are also very good in preparing you how to do the networking, and how do you do the email outreach and all of that. They also have a couple of like mock interviews, as and when you get calls you could schedule an interview. And so so that was a big plus. I mean, during the time of the interview it would help you not to like panic. So overall it was a very positive experience, and I learned so much. Before coming to HiCounselor, I didn't have any system of uh, like applying to the companies. I just find a company and just find a recruiter and just message them on LinkedIn or just send an email. But this was a very inefficient system, and one thing that I learned is that getting a good job to a large extent is a numbers game. So you should really optimize your time in by like saving. You should actually try to save a lot of time. But think about this: if what if someone actually was there to tell you that, I mean, these and these hot startups have recently made this things, these acquisitions, and are looking pretty good. Why don't you apply there? So it was, having HiCounselor was like an experience like that. I met some really amazing people, had made some amazing connections to them, which I am not sure I would have been able to achieve if I was just applying through all of those job listings that you find on LinkedIn. The biggest pain point when it comes to looking for companies is that you would be spending too much time finding the right people to to put your case forward, and that takes a ridiculously long amount of time. And HiCounselor has this system wherein that is entirely like taken care from their end, and you could spend like 95% of your time preparing for the interviews, which is a big plus. And so this would take away a lot of the burden from, it's taxing both mentally as well as physically, like, and majority of the time you would be getting like rejections and everything. So yeah, I was, to be frank, skeptical about the program because there are like a couple of other programs that are very similar to this, and generally when you look online for a review, it probably wouldn't be that nice. And I think the problem here is that you should not come here with the mistake of saying that they'll actually solve your problem for you. They won't do that. I don't think you should expect someone to do that for you either. Instead, the right outlook is that if you have a particular pain point in your system, find the right person who can actually solve it. And when it comes to HiCounselor, their biggest plus point is that they will do the networking on your behalf, which in my experience saved a lot of my time and energy, and I could channelize like all my time to actually getting a good amount of preparation done. So I don't think anyone else in this field actually focus on this particular regard. And another thing is that don't assume that HiCounselor will, like, teach you the tech from ground up. Instead, what they will do is they'll provide some kind of minimal framework that lets you think about problems in a certain way and identify certain patterns very fast. You should be a reasonably good coder before you join the program. And another thing that I would like to add is that instead of always targeting the big names like Google, Amazon, Facebook, I think there is a much better opportunity for you if you really target companies that are relatively small in size. It's for multiple reasons. The biggest reason I would say is that the amount of learning that you will gain will be like multiple times bigger. A lot of the time, the things in startup was that the things move very fast, and a startup succeeds because they need to have an edge. So they are uncompromising in that regard. So you would get to work with some of the very best and the brightest people when it comes to startups. Another thing is that the amount of networking you can make is really big. I personally right now know like a couple of venture capitalists in the Bay Area, and I don't think I would have gotten a chance to do this if I was in a big company. It would have taken me at least a couple of years to get to a level wherein I was at least I was even confident to go out and reach to them. And third reason is that in a small company, the impact you're going to have is much bigger. So if you are someone who actually have that kind of an attitude, wherein the things that I work on should have like a larger impact on the people or the company as a whole, then a good startup is actually the right place to be.